Let's talk to Tony from New York, who wants to talk about atheism only working in the physical world. That's an interesting statement.
Hello? Hi, guys.
Hi, Tony.
Can you hear me?
Hi.
I'm sorry, sorry for saying that. I was literally, oh my God, my bad. Hey guys, I'm just primarily just to get the point that I'm getting across. I'm a deist. I just don't like. I feel like atheism only works in the physical world. Outside of that, it can't, like in our psyche, because we still need it. Like you guys just mentioned your top Patreons. That's because people donated to it. So money is still, in a sense, a god that we kind of worship. Even though it's in the physical world, it's still something metaphysical. It still has no actual value. You know what I mean? Money itself doesn't really have a value. It's imaginary.
I can prove money exists, though.
I'm instantly curious. Like when you're using terms, and I'm wondering what you mean by them. Like when what do you mean by atheism? What is atheism?
Well, atheism is just that you hold the, like, you don't, not necessarily that you don't believe God exists, but you have no evidence for God existing. That, like, if
yeah, I'm unconvinced.
If you like are just unconvinced that God exists.
Yeah,
that's what atheism is.
Right.
Yeah.
That whole thing is just the same thing as Santa Claus, the Easter Bunny, and everything like that.
Yeah. So would you say, just by analogy, would you say, just to help me understand, would you say that not believing in Santa Claus only works in the physical world?
Well, yes, because we only exist in the physical world. But I'm saying that
so
belief of Santa Claus does have ramifications in the physical world. Every Christmas I got to see Santa Claus, every things like that. So it does have ramifications in the physical world, but as part of the physical world, as part of being something that actually exists, isn't. But even the thing of truth is objective. I mean,
well, hang on, and let's just break that up. Sorry, 1 second. Just breaking that up. Like we can, I think all three of us agree that Santa Claus doesn't exist, but the belief in Santa Claus does exist in the world, and we have actions and traditions and stuff
in the real world.
Yeah, and we could say, I mean, I'm making the strong claim that Santa Claus doesn't exist, but maybe if we back off and just say I'm unconvinced Santa Claus doesn't exist, then we can say it's the same with God, in that I'm unconvinced God exists,
but you're also, you see how
but I'm convinced the belief does.
What about money? Just instead of Santa Claus use money, it becomes more difficult because you feel like money is something real, but it isn't.
Money is something real.
Yeah, I mean, even if it's just a social construct that we've made up, it's still a thing. Like I could give you some money.
You can argue that about God.
No,
they hold the same
no, I don't think we can.
Truth.
So we use these words to describe concepts, constructs, as Katie just said. So yeah, money is a word for this thing that has some transactional value, currency. If someone were to ask me to demonstrate that money exists, I could go over my wallet and grab $1 and we could talk about what this piece of paper. Listen, this is the thing. When you interrupt me, I can't hear you.
Hang on a sec, Tony.
Tony, when you interrupt me, I can't hear you. So we're gonna have to try to take turns talking, like in a conversation. So if someone were to ask me to show them money exists, I can go grab $1 or a pound note if I'm in the UK, or a pound coin.
We don't have pound notes. What are you on about?
Right. That's why I changed to a coin. I was like, So, and then I could hold up my little coin with the picture of the Queen on it, and they could go, "What is that? What does it do?" And we could talk about what it is and what it means for something to be money. Why the pound coin is different from just like a bit of metal I pick up on the ground. Why one has value, why one doesn't. So money very much does exist, and in a way that the God thing doesn't. Go for it.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
That's the third time asking the same question, so clearly you can.
Thank you. If the same way you said, you can pull out $1 or a pound, a euro, a lek, a dinar. You can take these currencies and you can take them out and say, look, this is currency. How is that any different than someone saying, look, this is a Bible, this is God, look, this is the Quran, this is God? I'm talking about what is the actual truth.
Well, I agree that the Bible exists.
Is there a distinction?
I agree that the Bible exists.
Is there a distinction between...
No,
I'm saying in the same way that there's a distinction between the physical paper money that I have and the authority that guarantees that it has value, and all the constructs that guarantee that it has value. There is a distinction between the Bible and any alleged authority that would give it value. We can show that the Queen exists. We can show that the U.S. Treasury exists.
One. Like, if think about it, like that's why you can't. It's difficult to be an atheist, because somebody can tell you that money is just as fictitious as God, and you have no way of debating that, because deep down.
Well, we were in the middle of debating it. What are you on about?
I just addressed that.
There's loads of different, like when you were just comparing money to the Bible. Hang on, Tony. When you were comparing money to the Bible, I mean, in that direct comparison, I believe the Bible exists. I believe money exists. And if right, so you brought up all these different currencies, and if someone comes and cracks out a euro in the USA and they try and buy something with it, someone's going to be like, that's not worth anything. Whereas if you do that in Germany, it is going to be worth something. So in the sense that you're talking about, the physical money obviously exists wherever you take it, but this kind of concept of value that humans have made up only exists when you're in an area where people have that shared understanding. And you could say, oh, well, religion has the same thing, because there are people who have a shared understanding of God, and it causes them to change their behavior and all of that kind of stuff. Yeah, right. I'm sorry. Yeah, okay. So I'm on board in this comparison, in that money requires this social construct in order for it to do the thing that we usually use it for. Because you could also use money for art or whatever, but and it's the same with the Bible and the same with God. But all we've done here is agree that it's something humans made up and would stop existing if we stopped existing. Exactly. If all of the people who had ever encountered a euro before all disappeared tomorrow, then the euro would be worthless. And if someone just discovered a bunch of them on the floor,
because you see, the thing is, though, the same way you have euros, dollars, pounds, lek, dinar, the same way you have the Torah, the Bible, the Quran, the Hindu, which has its multiple variants of beliefs in it.
Yeah, I mean, we've all got the bits of paper. They physically exist. Yeah. And then we've got the ideas. The ideas are real ideas that people believe in. But that doesn't mean that the gods described are true, because like if all humans died out tomorrow, money would not have an intrinsic value. And if all humans died out tomorrow, the beliefs in the religion would not have any intrinsic value, and the God that they describe wouldn't exist.
Human beings are prone to these beliefs means that it's impossible for us to escape some form of theology.
What?
No,
you're talking to two atheists right now. I mean, I'm curious. Like this has been a very interesting call. So we started with atheism only works in the physical world. And it's like, well, yeah, I don't know why we would think any other world exists. And now we've gone down this weird rabbit track of like trying to figure out if money exists. Like, I'm wondering what the point of the call is.
Because we don't only exist in the physical world. You have.
Why do you think that?
Emotions. I can say things to you right now that can irritate you, and you can be like, "Fuck you, get off the phone." You know what I mean? So we do exist more than just in the physical world.
What is?
Yeah, but that's just chemicals in your brain, mate.
Yeah, why would an emotional response to certain stimuli have anything to do with something non-physical?
I mean, the same reason why people put Santa Claus outfits every Christmas. The comparison is exactly the same. It's the fact that we're those chemical buildups in our brain will always have ramifications, whether it be through some form of belief or another. I'm trying to say that we can never escape that because of those chemical beliefs. Because of the way
but that's all still physical world. Like your brain structure, that has your memories and the chemicals inside your brain. That's all the physical, real world. And you know about Santa Claus. And in a future where we know how the brain memories work and everything, I could potentially go in with a scalpel and cut out all the bits of your brain that are aware of Santa Claus, and you wouldn't know anymore.
Because it's the scalpel would have to be really tiny, because you'd have to be playing with neurons. It would be almost.
I feel like that in our future world, that's a ridiculous caveat that I was kind of overlooking.
I feel like the Andromeda galaxy would collide with us before we get to that understanding.
But again,
possibly. But what I'm saying is it's in the physical world, and you said
what is the evidence of there being a non-physical world?
Well, no, we exist in the physical world, but our thoughts are in the non-physical world, and our thoughts.
Why do you think that?
In this world.
Yeah, I'm not convinced. What's your evidence for that?
Yeah, why do you think our thoughts exist in a non-physical world?
Well, no, our thoughts bring about our physical actions. We can think things and then produce them. That's why.
Yeah, but thinking's just chemicals and electricity and stuff in a brain.
Yeah,
it's got some physical structure.
Actual things. Somebody had to think of something good to happen. Somebody had to think of something bad to happen.
Right.
Do something. That's what causes.
But you're talking about
actually exist.
You're talking about actual things causing other actual consequences. I mean, our minds.
I'm talking about thoughts causing consequences. People can
think
and then act on those thoughts. This isn't a new concept.
Why do you think that thoughts are non-physical?
Because they're not physical. You can't physically. You think nobody. I can show you a photo of someone that's crying, and you can't tell me if they're crying because they're happy or they're crying because they're sad.
That has nothing to do with whether our thoughts are physical or not. That has nothing to do with whether our thoughts are physical or not.
No, but how can you display? How would you show me happiness? How would you show it in the physical world?
What do you mean? The concept?
What is anger?
Do you mean how would I show you like the concept of happiness? Like I'm not sure what you're even asking me.
No. How would you show me happiness? Because in your belief, everything only exists in the physical world. So physically show me happiness. Physically show me sadness.
So I wonder if I can maybe shed some light onto this conversation by coming in from a completely different angle. And it's this idea in like the philosophy of language, which I'm absolutely not an expert on. So I'm probably going to dick up just as much as I did my explanation of how the universe works just now. But
no, you're pretty good.
We have this thanks. We have this like idea, and like the classic example is a tree. And when I say a tree, we all know exactly what I mean, or we think we do, because we've got this like shared understanding and we communicate it and stuff. But if we come up with a new, like you meet a new language, new people who speak a word, and they point at a tree and they say like bleh, you might think, oh, they mean trees. Because they've pointed at a tree, and my understanding is that is a tree. But they might not be doing that because they are pointing at something, and in their understanding, they might have a totally different set of concepts available to them. They might not have any matching concept for tree. They might be pointing at something and it's just life in general, or they might be pointing at it because it's green and it's the word for green, or they might be pointing at the tree and saying oak, and they only have a concept for oak and they don't have a general concept for trees, and they point at another one and they say a different word and they say pine, and for them they are totally two different separate concepts, and they haven't got the idea of evolution and thinking these two things are related. And basically we end up having this idea where language is like mapped onto reality in some way, but we have this like shared understanding. And to say whether some of these concepts that we come up with, especially when we're talking like harder to define things like emotions, you might find that in some languages there are words for emotions that easily map, like very common emotions like happiness. Probably every language has a word that means happiness, but then there are some words, some emotions which are very difficult to describe. Like there's a classic feeling which is Schadenfreude. I can't even probably say it. But it's
Schadenfreude.
Yeah, Schadenfreude does it. And the reason we take that German word is because there just wasn't a mappable word already existing in English.
Yeah.
But what that means is, does that concept even exist if you're unaware of the word of it? Or did that concept exist all the time and we were trying to describe it? Or are there other emotions which are covered by other words? So we just kind of use happy for all of these different emotions in another language. It's the same with colors. Some languages don't have a word for blue, for example. Does that mean blue doesn't exist? Or does it mean when they look at something blue, they actually conceptually have it in their mind as teal, for example, because they have a word for that? Anyway, the reason why I'm coming in with this angle is we could say that socially concepts exist in a way which isn't necessarily I've kind of maybe, I don't know how well I've explained this, but sometimes we could say, oh, when I say a word, oh, it definitely exists. But in another language, they might not even have that concept, even though that they would agree that the thing you're pointing at is real. And in that sense, all of our communication is yes. Anyway, just to finish that thought, what I'm saying is that the concepts aren't necessarily a physical thing. All concepts in all language, and they were like a shared cultural understanding. I don't know how good a job I've done of that, but this feels to me like a way of explaining what you're trying to say, in that like it's not a physical thing. The idea of like turquoise isn't a physical thing. It's just a color that you point at, and other people know what turquoise means.
Yeah,
but in other languages, they might just say blue.
We give into it. Like,
yeah.
We just associated that, and we can have many different associations of things.
Yeah, and different cultures have different ones.
Like it's because that money has such a sweat. Like, the reason I revert and I'm going back to money is that money is something that actually has power over us in society.
Yeah, but we made it up.
Life,
yeah.
You know. But it's the same way as we've made up a God. The thing though is that it's very it will be difficult for me. That's why I'm still like, I'm a deist. That's one of the reasons, but not the prime. The prime reason is because I feel like we've existed for eons. Like, as a child, I've asked my parents, where did I come from? They said their parents, and their parents came from their parents, and their parents. So I'm like, oh, there had to be a beginning of consciousness, sort of. I mean, the beginning of all of these types of thoughts.
Well, that's like a sidetrack. We can come back to it later potentially. But on your money point, what I guess what I'm trying to do is say that you know, we can make these one-to-one comparisons with religion. We can say, oh well, we have a physical piece of paper and we have a physical Bible. That's a comparison. We have these like social concepts which we can communicate to each other in language about money, and they can cause people to do real world things, and they can have good and bad ramifications, etc., etc. And it's the same with money and the Bible or any religion. That's like a one-to-one mapping.
No, but I'm trying to say that.
But then we also, in religion, we are making this claim that a God exists, and what's the mapping here? What in money maps the claim that God exists?
No. I'm explaining to you why how it maps it, because it's the same thing. It's just, if you get rid of, it's easier to attack the older religions. I can find fault in Muhammad. I can find fault in Jesus. I can find fault in Moses. I can find fault in all the Hindu teachings because it's easier to find fault in them. It's harder to find fault in money because it's a concept that we still use. So we still feel like it has some sort of necessary value to us, even though it's still the same thing. We're just trading one thing for another.
What do you mean by find fault in, though, is what I'm wondering.
I don't mean,
you know, like,
I used the wrong word. I didn't mean trade. We're not trading in one for another, but we're programmed in a way that we're always going to be drawn to something like this. We need that sense of structure. We need that sense of order.
Well, humans might be as a culture, like as a species, the claim humans are drawn to making up religion. I accept that. That's fine. But to say that we individually need religion, I think we can just say is demonstrably false, because me and Kenneth don't believe in a God. Huh? I need money to live the life that I live today. Money, you don't need money to live, theoretically. You could.
So you need money to be happier, the way some people need religion to be happier.
So here's the
problem. Okay.
Given,
I don't agree with that claim either.
We're not, like, I'm going to quote Christopher Hitchens. I'm probably butchering what he said in a sense, but the gist of it was that human beings are drawn to religion like a child is to their favorite teddy bear or their blanket. That they'll never depart from it.
And he says they'll never let it go. I know he said that. I remember him saying that. The thing with money is, given our current social arrangements as a species, money serves a necessary purpose in a variety of contexts. There's
the same way religion serves a necessary purpose to someone else.
Okay.
This is why
so you're not listening. You're not listening.
Yeah, let Kenneth finish.
Okay.
I've talked loads.
I've gone ahead and hit the mute thing because you're just not listening. So I'm hoping that I can do you a favor here. So money, objectively, is useful given our current circumstances for our species. It serves a purpose. Okay. Now, would it be possible to just do away with money? I guess we would have to really overhaul how humanity does business to do so. But religion, while there are people do find uses for religion, there is nothing for which religion is essential. There is nothing that you can get to via religion that you can't get to via purely secular means. Do you disagree with this statement?
I do disagree, only because you're not, like, you're trying to diverge from the fact that they're the same thing. Like you're saying,
they're not the same thing.
Because
but let's stick with religion and your claims with respect to religion. Is there anything that religion is essential for, that religion gives us that we can't get to via secular means?
Yes, the concept of money. We would have never developed the concept of money had it not been for religion. We would have never been by this concept just for religious.
That's quite a claim, mate.
I'm not convinced. Just completely wacky nonsense. I don't know what you're talking about. I'm gonna try asking again. Is there anything that we couldn't achieve via anything desirable for humanity that we couldn't achieve via secular means for which we need religion? Anything?
Well, the question is asked in a way that I have to agree with you. You're aware of this, right?
No. Maybe you can think of something that religion can give us that we need it for.
The question is asked in a way that I have to agree with you, because it's sort of, you're trying to put me in a situation where it's like, how can human beings achieve something without, like, the question? What was the question again?
The question is there anything positive that our species needs, that we need religion for, that we cannot obtain via just secular means?
You see, the question right there is, why positive? I'm focusing on the negative connotations that we still have for our plate.
Well, yeah, there's tons of negative shit that we can get to via religion that is.
We don't need it. Like, yeah, I think the reason, Tony, the reason that Kenneth is asking this is because you are saying things like, "Oh, we need religion," and we're just, and you say, "Oh, some people need religion," and I just don't believe it. I don't need religion, and I think anyone could get to a point where they don't need religion.
I'm saying that it's not that we don't need, and I'm not saying about the necessity of religion or not. I'm saying that we're plagued by it regardless if we think we can escape it or not. That even if we,
I agree with that.
Well, sure.
Religion exists in the world, and I mean, that's
of what we do. We're prone back to this type of ideological thinking, and I'm saying, how can we escape this ideological thinking?
Right. So I mean, that is kind of the point of this show, in that I think everyone on the, in the ACA and the wider atheist community is well aware of. Today, we cannot escape the tendrils of religion. Like, it affects politics, it affects society, it affects like individual actions. Absolutely. But the whole point is, we're saying, well, we think that that's not necessary, and even that often we think that's bad, and therefore we're working to change the world so that's not the case. And you could say, oh, well, it's impossible.
And if we're talking about something like money, I mean, like, I went to the grocery store this morning to get food for my family. Okay. So to do that, I needed some money. Okay.
No, you needed to
or a gun.
Oh, I needed to farm. Where am I? How am I going to acquire the land for farming?
With a gun.
With my family here.
You see, it goes back to the whole thing. You're still plagued by the idea of money.
No. I'm asking you. I'm not talking about the idea of money. I'm talking about actual freaking dollars, my guy. So if I want to take care of my family, right, which I do.
Mm-hmm. You need a house, shelter. You need food. You need clean water. These are things that you can provide for yourself. But we've been believed and programmed in a way that you can only get these things through dollar amounts.
You're okay. This is complete
I do kind of agree
nonsense.
with Tony in one sense that it's often very difficult for people to imagine. Like, what's difficult about this conversation is we keep switching the context of it. Like, in general, I agree that most people are grown up in a world where they don't really question whether we could live with a world without money. And if you say, oh, well, why don't we have a world without money? It seems ridiculous to them, and they can't even conceptualize it. Fair enough. But again, when we compare this to atheism or like the goals of this show, there's probably a group of people out there campaigning hard to get rid of money as a concept, and none of them are going to say to you, money doesn't exist today, or tomorrow we'll be able to solve the problem. They're going to say, This is a long-term goal, whether you agree with them or not, whatever. But similarly, if we're doing our comparisons between money and religion, as atheists, we're not saying religion doesn't exist. It obviously does. We can all see it all around us every day. And equally, we're not saying we can end it tomorrow. But what we're saying is we believe that it is possible for the world to function without religion, and it doesn't benefit us. And it would be good to teach people that that's not necessary. And it doesn't mean I want to ban other people from having their religions or stop them having freedom of religion or anything, but explaining and showing to people that they don't need religion for something, because often feeling like they need it is the problem that stops them from living their lives in a better way. And that's the difference here. So what, you know, if you're calling in to say you think God exists in another realm or something, that's a different conversation to whether you're saying, you know, if you're saying to us, oh, well, I don't think that atheist activists can actually create a world where there isn't religion. I mean, okay, that's a question of practicality, and that's something where, like, you know, I'd like to create a world without murder as well. And can we ever do that? Probably not, but we can certainly reduce it. And it's the same with this. I mean, I don't. That's my position anyway. I feel like that's kind of the best I can do with this conversation. Sorry if we got frustrated a bit today, Tony, but it was a good discussion. But we are near the end of the show, and there's one caller that we'd like to take. So thanks for calling in, and please do call back if you can refine your ideas.